Welcome to the Huddle Up Podcast, your go-to show for all things Broncos.
Once again, Broncos country, it is time to huddle up. I am Carl Dumler, and with me as always, we have Nick Kendell. This show's focus is all things that pertain to your Denver Broncos, with an extra focus on the NFL draft. Nick and I will continue to talk general Broncos news, but always have a focus towards team building. We still stand by our statement, though, that building teams in the offseason is arguably as fun as the actual games on Sunday. Follow myself on Twitter at Carl Dumler, MHH, as well as follow Nick at Nick Kendell, MHH. Of course, tweet us as much as you like, and follow the podcast account at huddleup_MHH. You can also find ours and our co-writers' content at milehighhuddle.com, an affiliate of Scout Media and the CBS Sports Digital Network. We know you listeners are as football and Bronco crazy as we are, so please give us a click and subscribe to us on iTunes, as well as iHeart, Stitcher, SoundCloud, CastBox, and Spreaker. Don't forget to share us on Facebook and Twitter. We wouldn't be here today without you listeners, so please take the time to rate and subscribe to let your voices be heard on how you enjoy the show. Today we are changing a little bit of course for the rest of the offseason on this show. We've wrapped up our 2017 draft content, and Nick and I have been talking about this for a while of what we wanted to do, and we thought we'd do a deep dive into the roster and how we think some things might shake out in building this roster. If you haven't figured out, or if you've never listened to the show, Nick and I are the type that we love to play armchair GM. And I think some of you out there do too. We want to be like Elway. We want to be like Mike. As Bronco fans, we want to be like Elway. And so we love the behind-the-scenes work of what it takes to balance the draft, free agency, signings, and working the cap to put together that championship roster. Nick, how about you tell the folks what we're going to be talking about today?
Well, we decided since, the most interesting battle is the quarterback battle, we'll hold that off for a while and we'll work our way down to that kind of a countdown. And we're going to start off with the complete opposite end, the safeties. So we're going to away from the back of the defense to the most important position on the field.
Well, before we get to that, I just wanted to let our listeners know today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/huddleup. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Again, that's www.audibletrial.com/huddleup. And just to give you a quick trial or a testimonial, I use Audible all the time. We go on lots of trips, my family and I, and sometimes these books are what help us to really pass the time and just get to say, hey, we read a book. And just get to listen to it. So I highly recommend it. Anybody out there, look up Audible. So starting out here, I figured let's just start with the two main guys. The guys that have been here for the last couple of years, that have been mainstays in our no-fly zone of the last 2 years, producing the number one passing defense. And of course, I'm talking about Darian Stewart and TJ Ward. Darian Stewart, let's start with him. How about you tell me a little bit of, Bronco fans should know him, but just tell me a little bit of his background.
Well, Darian Stewart was an undrafted free agent. He is 28 years old and played his college ball at the University of South Carolina, the Gamecocks. He is entering his 8th season in the NFL, which is crazy with him being only 28 years old. And this is his 3rd team while in the league. He started off with the Rams in St. Louis, and then he went 1 year to Baltimore, and he's played the last 2 years in Denver. Way back when he was at the Combine, he came in at 5'11", 213 pounds, and he had a decent height and arm length and a solid broad jump, vertical jump, and 40-yard dash. And overall, been a good player. He's gotten a little bigger, heavier since he came in that way. He's about 220 now, 215, 220. So he's a bigger guy, and he's been a solid player for the Broncos the last 2 years. I just messaged you on Facebook the other day that, he honestly might be the most underrated player on the entire team.
Yeah, I would put him as the number 3 guy in the no-fly zone. Of course, you got Chris Harris, Aqib Talib, and then of importance, I would say Darian Stewart, and just playmaking ability. This guy has just been such an amazing find by Elway. I don't know. Everybody credits Elway's, like last of the draft, what he could find. What I'm most impressed with is his unheralded free agent signings. Those ones, it's not the big names. We knew DeMarcus Ware, Aqib Talib, those guys were going to be good players. But, he finds these guys that other teams just don't see the talent. And he sees something in them and sees that they're getting ready to hit their prime. And boom, they take off for us. So Darian Stewart, yeah, I'm a huge fan of this guy. Doesn't get the recognition. Everybody else gets talked about. You think of the no-fly zone. Bradley Roby gets a lot of attention. TJ Ward is the safety that's always talked about. But to me, Darian Stewart's the guy that really helps put this all together.
Yeah, I agree. He just made such a difference. I mean, we had a great defense. It was a pretty solid defense in 2014. And then when we brought him in to join the no-fly zone, I mean, it just took us to a different level. So, yeah, he's been great with us. He's just signed on a 4-year extension not too long ago, 4-year, $28 million, $13 million fully guaranteed. And he also had a player option, or not a player option, a team option for a 5th year. And he's been statistically productive his last years for the Broncos. He had 63 tackles, 1 interceptions, and 10 passes defended on that 2015 defense. And he had 68 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 6 passes defended this last year. So he's very productive for us. The game that sticks out particularly for me this year was that game against the Saints. He absolutely just took Drew Brees' lunch money. I think he had a fumble recovery and 2 interceptions in that game and was just all over the field making big plays and just wrecking havoc. And he's a great player. Agreed.
Yeah. So what kind of physical attributes, I guess, do you see in this kind of player that really help to make him what he is?
Well, he's got a very good body size for safety. He's not too small. And actually, I think he might be a little bigger than the typical free safety, which helps him a lot coming down and filling in and run support. And also just, putting up big hits to help jar balls loose or coming down over the top. Decent speed and strong enough to take on blocks. Like we talked about, come down and shed blocks and fill in the run game. And he has good instincts. I mean, I hardly ever see him out of place, that Raheem Moore syndrome. He's very, doesn't take many false steps and takes very efficient routes to the ball carrier. And he's versatile. He can play man against running backs and tight ends. He can play cover 3, cover 2, cover 1. He's not a true canopy safety. He's not Earl Thomas or even, a draft example since we're draft guys. He's not a Malik Hooker type where, they just have incredible range over the top. But he's more of a Marcus May type, if you will, where he's going to come down, be strong over the top, be good enough as a man safety, zone safety, and just provide a physical leadership presence in the back end.
I guess one question I have for you with him is what took him so long to get to this, to be this player? Because, for us, he looks like a star player. At least in my mind, he does. He maybe doesn't get recognized as that. But what took, his third team for him to finally kind of come out of his shell or whatever you want to call it?
I mean, gosh, I wish I could tell you. We could solve a lot of players' issues. I didn't watch him so much in college or at the Rams or with the Ravens. When we signed on to him, it was kind of like, okay, I'll give him a chance. You never know. That's kind of what I'm hoping for from Kerr this year. But he's only 28 years old, like we talked about. So when he joined us, he was 26, hitting his prime, and maybe coming over to Denver, just a different attitude, a different secondary mentality, and just different eyes made a world of difference. And, he's never been a freak athlete at the position, but maybe it took this long to finally get the mental processing and the preparation down.
Yeah, I think he's a great showing for what patience can do with players. Maybe they have the physical build, but they just don't have the mental makeup quite yet to be the type of player that you need them to be. And, there's a lot of players that never develop. But then there's these kind of stories where you see with Darian Stewart where you're going, man, this guy came out of nowhere. And it's just everything clicked. And good for the Broncos, obviously. It worked out well for us. And he and TJ Ward, I think, have produced maybe one of the best 1-2, just intimidators for a safety position. Both of them are just huge hitters. And I would hate to play wide receiver going over the middle with these two guys, roaming that area. But, it's impressive what he's able to do now with us, with the Broncos. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that makes me really love Darian Stewart is his versatility. I am not sure what the future holds for Ward with the Broncos, but I think Darian Stewart is physical enough that he can be a strong safety and athletic enough and instinctual enough over the top that he can remain at free safety. So it really offers a lot of roster versatility going forward.
Yeah, I keep wondering with that. Like I would say our third best safety, and we'll get to him here in just a second, is Justin Simmons. And he's your prototypical free safety. So, if TJ Ward leaves, kind of that, does Darian Stewart move over? Can you make that work? And sounds like you think he can really play that position well.
I think it might take a little bit of adjusting the offense or the defense a little bit, just because he's not exactly the same as Ward. Ward's a little bit more of a box filler type, almost that small linebacker role. But Stewart, I think, can play free or strong safety fine and fill in and play probably a little bit more coverage than we typically see from Ward at the strong safety position.
Yeah. So for this upcoming season, do you kind of project that his role is going to pretty much stay the same as what it's been the last 2 years, or do you see with this new coaching staff, which, the defense has stayed pretty similar, but they do have a new secondary coach, and they do have our secondary coach of the past is now our defensive coordinator. Do you see them using them any differently?
I think it probably depends on the other guys on the roster. If Ward takes a step back because of age or injury, or Simmons really starts to cement himself in his second year in the defense, I think Stewart is the guy he's so valuable because he can play either free safety or strong safety. So he could have a similar role if Ward is going to play in there. But if we start to transition a little bit more to Simmons playing free safety role, then I probably see him playing a little closer to the line of scrimmage.
No, I agree with that. I love what he brings. Like I said, I don't think there's enough good things we could say about him. And Bronco fans, if you don't talk about Darian Stewart when you're talking about the no-fly zone, you're missing one of the key pieces, that's for sure. So make sure to have him included in that. And, the only thing that I have a critique of his game big time is his hands. He had a great game against New Orleans, but most of the time I've seen him where he gets in the perfect position and then he drops it. And, for a free safety, I like my guy to be able to make some turnovers. So I could see a little bit of transition, having him a little bit more closer to the line of scrimmage, and then allowing Justin Simmons to kind of be that roaming free safety that gets to go make some big plays, because he's got some great hands and some ability to make some big-time turnovers.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan, and I don't know if I don't think I would have him ranked third in the no-fly zone just because I value cornerbacks so much. But he's he might be the most underrated safety in the entire league. I can't ever really think of many times where he's blown an assignment or been the reason for a big play. But he doesn't play cognizant. He doesn't play like soft, like he realizes he's the last line of defense. He comes down and he will make a hit or disrupt a passing lane and make plays. So I love him, and I'm glad that we have him here for the next few years for his prime on a pretty decent contract.
All right. Well, let's move on to his partner in action, TJ Ward. Tell me about this guy.
Well, TJ Ward is 5'10" and 211 pounds, and that probably doesn't surprise anybody listening. He actually ran a 4.4940 at the combine, which is actually pretty surprising. Yeah, he plays pretty fast, but I wouldn't take him as a sub 4.5 guy. Yeah. He might not be that. He might not be that anymore. That's just nature of the game.
Yeah,
but he had good speed, and he's still got pretty good relative speed, especially when he's in pursuit. He was taken early in the second round by the Cleveland Browns. He might have been the first pick or the first, second, or third pick in the draft he was taken. I remember it was very early in the second round, and he played his college ball at Oregon. He is a very physical presence over the middle, and again, just almost a small linebacker of sorts. When we play him, he's very close to the line of scrimmage. At least that's where he's best, and really can be effective over the middle for like crossing routes and in the run game. He's not the biggest guy, so he's not going to have that sort of presence, because sometimes size does matter as a presence. He's physical, but he doesn't have the length or just the overall size to redirect guys in routes. But he's very strong over the middle and is a good gap filler, and honestly, probably one of the two attitude guys on the defense. Make it three. There's three attitude guys: Talib, Ward, and Wolf. And they all are very important roles.
He definitely brings the boom and like you said, the attitude. I remember, and the attitude thing, and this is something to always keep in mind with our defense, is when things are going good, it is great to have the attitudes that they have. When things turn bad, it's not always the best. If people remember, I think it was the Patriots game where he did the body slam at the end of the game.
Yep.
Yeah, that was, a stupid play. He's supposed to be one of the leaders on the defense, and that's kind of just his emotions getting the best of him. And, that's our defense always plays right on the line of aggressive and what's the word I'm looking for here?
Malicious.
There you go. That's kind of the line that they always straddle. And there are times where they cross over that. And so, yeah, TJ Ward can be the guy that does some of that. But yeah, he's a huge attitude guy. He's, a lot of the other players on the defense feed off what he does, and with good reason, because he's out there to make some big time plays. Just looking at some statistics, he's been with us here now for 3 years, and this will be his 4th year with the Broncos. Now, yeah, just looking at some of his statistics, the 2015 Super Bowl season, he had 61 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and was just a man all over the field. 2016, 87 tackles, 1 sack, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. And this past season, I just wanted to show just what TJ Ward brings to the table, and why the Broncos love what he brings. And he had 17 total pressures. That's sacks, hits, and hurries combined. And that led the league big time from the safety position. The Broncos like him in that blitzing role. And he does well fighting through the traffic and getting to the quarterback and making something happen. And actually with the Broncos, he's never finished below top 5 in that category among all safeties. So, that's the good that TJ Ward really brings to the team. He has struggled in coverage. This last year gave up a passer rating of 89, which is not great, especially when you consider the no-fly zone and, just how great they've been. Like you said, his size just really plays into that, because he's usually going against tight ends that are that 6'3" to 6'5" range, and here he is 5'10". And so it's just sometimes hard watching him trying to keep up and trying to fight, with those guys that are a lot bigger than him. I'm not saying that he doesn't try to fight. I mean, he does well, but he has those times where he really gets out of position.
Yeah, and he can be a little bit over-aggressive too. I see him bite on play action or misdirection a fair amount, and he's not always the smoothest when he's transitioning from that bite back into coverage. So that aggression, obviously you need that aggression, so I'll take it. But if we're going to be trying to take off the Homer glasses in here, I only drink orange and blue Kool-Aid every other day. So
there you go.
try to be as realistic as possible.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to get better. He can really struggle if you leave him on an island sometimes against tight ends, especially this last year. He needs help a lot of times. He's good when he's helping somebody cover a tight end, or there's like a linebacker and they can bracket. But as much like one-on-one, especially outside the hash marks, you don't want him there. I remember It was 2 years ago. You had him covering running backs against the Patriots, and they tore us apart. So he's very valuable. Just not the best. He's very valuable, but you don't want to get him outside the hash marks and leave him vulnerable in that way.
Right. Play him to his strengths, not his weaknesses. I do remember I watched when we got him, because everybody was kind of going, who is this guy and what does he bring to the team? Because he's coming from the Browns, and he was coming off being a second team All-Pro. And I was just really impressed. I went back and watched his game against the Patriots, and they matched him up quite a bit against one-on-one against Gronk. And he actually held his own. I thought, man, this guy's really great in coverage. And then I watched a little bit more of him, and I said, oh, okay, well, it's not always there. So he has his moments. And he makes tight ends pay for it if they try to make a catch against him. But yeah, he can find himself definitely out of position if you don't use him to his strengths. So I guess how do you see the Broncos maybe changing up how they use him this year, or do you think they'll just keep using him the same as what they've done in the past?
I would love to see him on the field more in 3 safety sets. I really do love the 3 safety sets, the 3-3-5 or the 4-2-5 kind of things, where you can get guys, that money, that new hybrid safety, that Jabril Peppers type. And I love him in a role where he's close to the line of scrimmage and you're not asking him to do too much, more of a reactionary player. And I think we're going to see more of that this year, because we definitely have 2 good safeties, but we might have 3.
Now, I guess just looking to his future outlook, do you think the Broncos will sign him to a contract extension?
I think it depends a lot on how the young guys look this training camp. If they do sign him, I would not sign him for more than 2-3 years. for a contract that's a similar rate to what he is right now. So yeah, I would think about re-signing him, but I wouldn't want to give him more than $5 million a year. He is 30, and a lot of times, especially with how violent he plays and how, he's probably going to start deteriorating a little bit physically, given how physical he plays and his size. I wouldn't want to give him a lot of years or a big guaranteed contract. So probably 2 years, $11 million if I'm negotiating with him. And I don't want to give it to him right away either, because I want to see what the younger guys that we have on the roster can do, because we have spent some draft capital the last few years and a decent chunk of undrafted cap money on safety.
No, I agree. I mean, we can't have the no-fly zone take up the entire, cap situation. The last 2 years, something to keep in mind is since he's been with the Broncos, he has not played a full 16 games. 2014, he played 15 games. 2015, he missed 4 games. 2016, he missed 2 games. So, he's always missed a few games. He's always come back. It's never been season ending or anything like that, but just kind of shows a little bit just that physical play is great, but it doesn't always hold up for an entire season.
Agreed. And he's going to have to prove to be healthy and hold off some of those young guys biting at his heels. I'm a little bit of an ageist when it comes to roster. I kind of like the younger guys a little more just because they have that potential and less tread on their tires most of the time.
Right. No, I agree with you. And I think we have some young guys that I'm pretty impressed with what they brought last year, and maybe even some undrafted guys that we got this year. And so let's just start our other second, last year's pick. He's a second-year guy, Justin Simmons, 23-year-old from Boston College. We got him in the 3rd round. How about you tell me a little bit about him?
I was a big Justin Simmons fan coming out of college, and I actually mocked him to us in the 3rd round in my pre-draft mock, so I was pretty excited to get that one right. Didn't see Adam Goetz coming, but I was a big fan of Justin Simmons, and he had a very good, productive year at Boston College. The game that really stuck out to me was his game against Notre Dame, where I think he had 2 or 3 sacks and was just all over the field, and then he went at the combine and killed it. He's 6'2", so he's got decent size to him, but he's a little bit string beanie, so to speak. He's 202 pounds. Decent arm length. You can see that. Again, string bean, 32 and 5/8 inches. But where he really stood out was his agility drills. He had a 3-cone of 6.58 seconds, a 20-yard of 3.85, and a 60 of 10.84. And that is the 97th percentile, the 98th percentile, and the 97th again. So that dude has crazy agility. And on top of that, he showed really good lower half explosion, doing great at the broad jump and the vertical jump, the 92nd and the 85th percentile compared to the safeties. He's a straight line guy. He ran a 4.61 40-yard dash. So, I mean, he's not, a 4.4 guy. But with his agility and his length, he is a very unique weapon in the secondary. And we saw it last year. He's still a little raw in some of the technical aspects. He can get a little turned around. And in the game against Kansas City at Arrowhead specifically, I remember him getting turned around and beat by Travis Kelce a few times. But I think the future of this kid is very bright, and I'm really hoping they start to implement him more in the secondary of the defense going forward this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I was actually surprised. I thought he had a few more snaps just because I remember him so much. That's great when you can remember a safety for how many plays they make. But he only played in less than 300 snaps this last year. And in that time, he was able to rack up 30 tackles, 1 sack, 2 interceptions. And then, he was obviously on special teams. The blocked extra point, if everybody remembers, he was the one that was able to do that against the Saints, where he jumped over the center. And you want to talk about, why teams look at those athletic numbers. That was what attracted the Broncos to think of him, of going, man, this guy could do that kind of play. And that's exactly why they put him in. I remember them kind of talking about that, of the coaches going, if we have to do that play, Justin Simmons is our guy to go jump over the center. And, of course, that worked out, blocked extra point. And then
Never again.
Never
again.
What?
It's illegal now.
Yes, it is illegal. But while we had the advantage, he was able to do that. And so that's where, again, those athletic numbers really come into play, of just knowing who's your guy that can go make that kind of play. And then, yes, his ability just to go get some turnovers, 2 interceptions, that's, for as few snaps as he was on the field, he was a playmaker. And so, yeah, I hope he can get on the field a little bit more. It's kind of like Bradley Roby. He's kind of your third cornerback, but at the same time, he's too talented not to have on the field. So, that's we've kind of got a problem of too many good players in our secondary. Not enough. Yeah.
Give me
it's hard to find, what kind of snaps should you get all of them. And I love this kid. I'm with you there. I love what he brings to the field, and I think he could be a huge playmaker. I think he could maybe be the answer to our tight end problem. Bronco fans all know we have had a problem with covering tight ends. Now, some of that is there's just so many good tight ends now, and the Broncos seem to be matched up against them quite often. Every year we seem to play the Patriots, and of course they've always had Gronk or Bennett, guys like that, and then of course the Chiefs with Kelsey, as you talked about earlier, those kind of guys. And so having this 6'2" safety to go up against them, I think the sky's the ceiling for this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure. He's kind of just like a tweener. He's kind of, because he's got an interesting body shape. If he was a little broader shouldered and, weighed 210, 215, 220, he would be a great strong safety. And if he was a little faster, he's quick. I don't know if he's super fast. Then he'd be a great canopy safety. And he's kind of in between. So I love it because I think it adds versatility. He's somebody who, if he bulks out a little bit, he could be a very good strong safety as well. And I think he's got a great future for us. I will say when I watch him on tape, he's not a headhunter kind of safety. He's very cognizant when he plays that he's the last line of defense. You'll see him almost play a little bit conservative in that regard. He doesn't come crashing down to deliver big hits. He's more of a wrap-up guy rather than a punishment, which, good and bad. I like the little bit of the physical mentality, make guys scared to go over the middle. Maybe he'll get bigger in the NFL program. We'll see what the second year brings here. But I love him. He was one of my favorite players in the draft 2 years ago, and I think they have to find a way to get this guy on the field more because he's going to make plays for the defense. Yeah,
I can't really add anything to that. I think I'm excited to see what he does in training camp and to see if he has bulked up a little bit, like you said. You always kind of see guys that second year come back a little bit more because they understand, the wear and tear that, is put on their bodies and that they need a little bit more. And of course, getting into an NFL weight training and eating program and all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to see what happens with this kid and praying that he is our answer to the tight end issue. And then let, possibly Ward and Stewart just go roam around and go hit guys. And this guy go out there and, cover that big tight end. That's what I envision. I think that would be great to see.
Yeah, he's going to need to be a little more physical in the routes if he's going to play man coverage, but he has the length and the quickness to do great at it. And he's going to just have to get a little cleaner with his footwork. Last year, a lot of times when he was playing man in those routes, he would get a little bit mixed up with his feet. Kind of like, you see Langley. He's just a little raw with his back pedal and getting in and out, flipping those hips.
Moving on, we're going to kind of go a little bit more rapid fire here, but we have Will Parks. Now, this guy's been a little bit of the news lately for the Broncos, but he's a 22-year-old from the University of Arizona for the Broncos, and he is about 6'1", 205 pounds, ran a 4.51 at his pro day and 21 bench reps. I don't know how much I trust always 40 times at pro days, but he is an athletic guy and kind of a versatile player, known as a strong player, big hitter, aggressive, can be a good tackler, and brings a decent setup for the Broncos. And it was kind of this view that Simmons would be our free safety of the future and Parks our strong safety of the future. And so I guess what do you see in this guy?
I see a potential TJ Ward replacement if everything goes well. And worst case scenario, he offers a very strong special teams contributor. He did a great job last year in special teams. And just looking up his stats now, he played 73.35% of the special teams snaps last year. And that was a total of 344 special teams snaps overall and second on the team. So worst case scenario for him this year, he's going to be, worst case scenario is he's cut because he's been kind of a dingus recently. But I see him most likely, again, offering a role as a special teams contributor. And if Ward is dinged up, filling in a bit more for that box safety type. Yeah,
no, I agree. And he does his best work when he's getting ready to move downhill. kind of like Ward, where he does his best work, just really getting to go make some big hits and make some big plays and working along that line of scrimmage. And just, he doesn't always have the best instincts is what I've seen. He struggles sometimes to diagnose what's going on around him. But, if that's improved and, he continues to work on his special teams and everything else, he could become a great playmaker for us. I like his potential, but like you said, he's had a little bit of off the field issues, I guess you could say. One of them's kind of on the field. But does that cloud his future for you with the Broncos?
Well, I've heard actually that coaches and teammates are kind of irritated at him, and the Broncos did spend a decent chunk of their undrafted free agency money on a strong safety. So I think he's very much on the roster bubble, and he would have been on the roster bubble if he had not done these off the field incidences. And why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners what these off the field incidences were, Carl?
Okay, yes, let's do that just in case you haven't seen these. The first is he released I guess this wasn't the first one, but the most recent one that I guess has happened here is the 2-play tape that he released on his Instagram or Snapchat. There you go. From what I understand, he released it because it showed him making, good decisions on the field. But a lot of people took it as a shot at Paxton Lynch, trying to show him making 2 really bad passes. I didn't think they were all that terrible of passes. They were more just bad timing than they were bad passes. And it's more, I don't think it's even that he was trying to make a player look bad or make himself look good. The issue is these are plays that are not supposed to be released to the public. And that's where a lot of people had, that kind of what in the world is this guy doing? Because it starts showing formations. It starts showing the type of plays that we're trying to run. Both of them, showing out of the shotgun. First one, kind of that almost not really a read option look, but kind of has a little bit of feel to that. And that's something that, we didn't do the last couple of years with Kubiak. So it kind of shows, hey, are they going to be working some of that into the system, especially with Paxton Lynch, because he kind of ran a lot of that there in college. So, yeah, it becomes a decent deal, even though it's only 2 plays. Maybe it's been a little overblown. Do you think it has?
I just think it's just so stupid. Like, what are you doing, dude? Use your head.
Yeah.
I think, what is overblown is the Paxton Lynch, people make an analysis based on 2 plays in May. Like, I can find 2 pieces of Peyton Manning throwing boneheaded passes. That doesn't make him not great.
Right.
So that's just a crazy overreaction.
Right. Yeah.
But stupid of him to release it.
Yeah, I agree. And then the second one, which is much, much worse, is a nonviolent domestic violence charge. I guess an ex-girlfriend stole some memorabilia from him. And so he's been calling her, trying to get it back, and then threatening that he would send a friend to come get it from her and possibly bring violence against her. I don't know. It's kind of a pretty crazy story. And so he's been charged with that. Nothing court-wise has been done quite yet. But that just came out. That happened in March. So, Broncos knew about this going into the draft, that this had happened. And then we see, with the undrafted, Broncos spent a lot of capital of their undrafted to go get a lot of strong safeties. So I guess you feel like that was kind of a sign of, hey, you better wake up, kid, because, we're ready to move on from you if things aren't good.
Well, yeah, I think that's partially it, but it's just he's much more expendable because we have these other options. So if he's struggling at all in camp, I mean, he could be gone. He played solid last year, but this just doesn't help. And I'm not going to make too many judgments on the non-violent domestic violent incident. Sounds like both might have had some fault in this. I mean, granted, don't bring violence ever. Don't bring the threat of violence, but just I don't know. We'll see. It's gonna have to be solved on the field. And I had some hopes for him. Apparently, he put on some weight this year, and he's been looking just like a Super Saiyan kind of guy. Got a 12-pack instead of a 6-pack. But yeah, we'll see what happens with camp, and he's gonna have to bring it because I think some of these younger guys are gonna be on his heels.
Let's talk about a few of those younger guys real quick to kind of close this time out. We have Jamal Carter, safety from the University of Miami. And something to kind of keep in mind with him is he got the largest signing bonus of any player for the Broncos this year of $20,000. And was also given a $10,000 salary from the Broncos. And then, of course, we have Orion Stewart of Baylor and Dante Barnett of Kansas State, who has been getting some high praise from some high players with the Broncos. Chris Harris had to say this about Dante Barnett. He said, "He caught my attention. He would be my undrafted sleeper." So of these three, I guess, do any of them really stick out of what you've seen on tape or what you're hearing, anything with the Broncos?
Well, I am excited for Jamaal Carter. He's somebody that I have spent a little bit of time watching tape on, and he's very physical and pretty similar to Parks. I don't think he's quite as athletic, but he's a little more smooth, if that makes sense. And I think he's a big hitter. I mean, he looks built. He was a very, very highly recruited safety that went to Miami. And finally, this last year, he finally showed on tape. He didn't light the world on fire at the combine. 6'1", 215, so good size, but a 4'6", 440, 19 bench press, 35-inch vertical jump, and a 122-inch broad jump. So solid athlete, but it's mostly that size and that physicality that really makes him stand out to me. And to watch out for you're going to have to listen to the undrafted defensive back, right? Like, it would be silly not to.
Yeah.
And I think Barnett has some upside, and I'm excited to watch him some more.
Yeah. No, I went to school in Manhattan, so I kind of keep close tabs on K-State because I live in K-State country, KU country, all that kind of stuff. And Barnett's name was talked about a lot. Just he was kind of the heart of that K-State defense. Just the guy that everybody looked to. He was a 3-time captain. Just that leadership that he brought to the team. He's small. He's not a big guy, but he's got a huge heart and just a guy that wants to go make a lot of plays. And he is definitely a guy to keep an eye on. I know he's going to work his tail off to make the roster. But a guy for me, I really like Orion Stewart. He's more in that free safety kind of look. They did a lot of kind of moving around, moving to nickel corner, free safety, strong safety. He kind of flew around the field and just made a lot of plays, had 12 interceptions while he was in college there at Baylor. We won't talk about Baylor, the college, but him, the player, I kind of like what he brought to their team and just his ability to really get the big turnover. And so, those three guys, I'm excited to see what they bring. And Will Parks better watch out. That's for sure. His position is not secure. I think a lot of people before this last week really thought his roster spot was there and maybe they keep 5 safeties. I don't know. That we've done that in the past. We've had 5 safeties and 5 corners before.
We'll see what happens. I wish they would just expand the roster a little bit. Honestly, they could use like 3 or 4 more guys on there with how specialized the league is. But I think all these guys have a chance to make the team, and if not there, they could make the practice squad. I'm excited to watch all of them in preseason and see how they're starting to fit the team, and it's awesome to hear the buzz early. I'm kind of a little bit sad that the practices aren't open to the media but once a week. They're open to all the media during the Kubiak days, but now they're closed most of the time, so we just have to listen to Andrew Mason, who's awesome, by the way, to see what the buzz is. And, I don't know. Different eyes. Not that Andrew Mason is biased, but he works for the Broncos. So, he's not going to be critical. That's not his job. That's our job. I'm excited to watch all of them and get some tape. So if Will Parks, if you're listening, you don't have to put it on your Snapchat. You can just send it to me.
There you go.
I'll watch. I won't release it. I'll just talk about what I see and make me look smart.
There you go.
So it's a really a solid group of safeties. Probably one of the better safety units in the NFL. You got some young guys, you got some potential, and you got some older studs. I wouldn't call us the Seahawks. We don't have Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor types, but both our safeties are probably top 20 safeties in the league. I would say Stewart's a top 10 safety. Most people wouldn't because he's super underrated, but he does his job. And I don't know. I love them all. So if we were ranking on an A to F scale, the safeties, what would you give them?
I'd give them, B plus maybe? Is that kind of a cop out?
No, you stole my answer. That's what I was going to say.
Oh man, okay, yeah. I'm close to giving him an A minus on the group, just because Justin Simmons adds that third versatility guy, and just got a lot of talent there, a lot of potential talent, I guess I should say, and a lot of talent on top of that. And it just depends a little bit on T.J. Ward and how he bounces back. He had a down year last year. I think he has the potential to really bounce back this year. You know, he wasn't happy with how he played, wasn't happy with how the entire team played. So as a leader, I think he can really step up and show what he can bring to the table as well. But yeah, Darian Stewart, I'm with you. I'd put him as a top 10 safety. And, you know, I did a ranking, you know, this of the AFC West and just the different position groups and everything and how I'd rank them. And I had the Broncos with the second best safety group in the AFC West, which is saying something because, you know, the Chiefs have Ron Parker and Eric Berry. You know, Eric Berry is a top 5 safety in the league.
Top 3, maybe number 1.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing. He's really even turned it up even more. You know, he was hyped up big time when he first came to the league, and this last year was maybe one of his best.
Okay, sidebar Eric Berry. Have you seen the videos of him around horses? Oh my God. The dude has, I don't want to make fun of people's phobias. That's not great. But like the Chiefs, the Broncos, doesn't matter. You know, if there's a horse on the field, the dude is freaking out.
Really?
He's like, I don't mess with no horses. I don't mess with no horse. I'm going to send you this. I'm going to tweet it out even when we play the Chiefs, I'll tweet it out. But if you haven't seen it yet, look up Eric Berry reacting to horses because he is not about them.
I'll look
showing like meeting one and like, oh, they're not so bad. They're just dogs. But like they're like on the field in the pregame warmups, and he's like trying to stand as far away as possible. Does not trust them.
Oh man, we should just have Thunder run laps around the stadium as the game's going on. Yeah,
we're just right in time for a play action pass, just to distract them a little bit.
Oh man. Oh so, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I would give him a B+ as well. I was actually leaning a little bit more to the B just because I'm not super high on Ward going into this year. Shoot me. I just see him potentially hitting that cliff. You know, how he plays and how much he's been injured. And he just looked a little stiffer, a little slower last year. So maybe he was dealing with a nagging injury. Not sure. But that kind of let me – and also we're spoiled. I'm spoiled. I try to be as critical and unbiased as possible to the point of probably being a little bit too pessimistic. But it's a great unit, and I'm excited especially for Ward, because the Broncos beefed up that defensive line. He should be more effective this year in the run game because he's not going to have to take on so many blockers, and he's going to have a little bit more freedom in his range.
Agreed. No, great group, and excited to see what they all bring and to see how this all plays out too. Like I said, this is not a set in stone unit. We could have quite the group by the end of this. So I'm excited for training camp, see what all these guys can do, and especially preseason where we finally get to see these guys on the field and let them go loose. You know, I was watching a Jamal Carter highlight reel, and this guy he just launches at people. There was one play where he took on Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook like got up wobbly and just kept looking at his shoulder like it was gone. You know, like he just had lost everything, and he kept waving the coaches off the field, but you could tell he was not wanting to take another hit. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what these guys can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And listeners, next week we are going to be breaking down the cornerbacks, probably the best positional group on the Broncos roster and the best cornerback group in the entire league. So looking forward to that one. All right, well, that will wrap up episode 17 of the Huddle Up podcast. Stay tuned for future deep dives into positional groups because we are less than 100 days out until the NFL season. Bronco fans, make sure to keep checking back on Mile High Huddle for all your updates on OTAs and other Bronco news. Hopefully nobody getting in trouble off the field.
Amen to that.
Yeah, just hang out with Simeon and stay inside, eat Skittles, and go over film, but don't Snapchat it. So,
there you go.
You can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Nick Kendell MHH, as well as find our Denver Bronco articles on Mile High Huddle, an affiliate of Scout.com. You can follow the Huddle Up podcast by subscribing to us on iTunes, Spreaker, Cashbox, and for Android users, Stitcher. You can also follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle, as well as at HuddleUp_MHH. Again, please be sure to subscribe and rate us. For Carl Dumler, I'm Nick Kendell, wrapping up the 17th episode of the Huddle Up podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next week for Cornerbacks. Go Broncos.
Mile High Huddle.